we're still walking around in some level of damage, but these things are also inhibitory to our development and growth and progress. And those are the people I want to help. And that's a friggin' enormous pool of people.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to Life and Leadership Unfiltered. I am your host, Charlene Burke. This episode 5, part 2 of episode 3. On this round, we really get to the heart of internal family systems approach. I found this conversation very intriguing and feel like I have a better understanding of what IFS is. Look, there are many ways to be helped, many methodologies and specialties to coaching. I am more of an intuitive coach, and Richard's approach from IFS and his passion for helping others is quite palpable. This is my invitation to you. If you found it helpful, share or leave us a comment or follow us. More importantly, above anything else, we are grateful for your willingness to chase your curiosity and giving us your listening ear for a bit. I hope you enjoyed this recording as much as I did.
Hi again.
Hi.
It's good to see you this morning.
Likewise. Great to see you.
Thank you. I mentioned in the meeting this morning that I'm reading this book by Marion Franklin that I only found out about real recently, like in the last several days. The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching, which is, I'm doing a lot of study on solution brief coaching and laser focused coaching at the moment. Really enjoying it.
She's quite fascinating and powerful. And when I heard some of her recording, I've joined some of her, and she's got some recording in ICF. Yeah, she's quite powerful. I actually took a class under her. She has a group coaching program that she does, a group coach to practice that laser coaching. Right. I signed up under her son because she wasn't available, or like her availability just didn't align with mine.
Right.
And it was a great experience. Her son actually became a MCC not recently, but we recorded a session and her son became an MCC as well, using Marion's laser focus approach.
You know, it's interesting that you've studied with her, and because that gives me an opportunity to ask some questions and to speak into it. If you're up for that, are you?
Sure.
Part of the reason I ask, and part of the reason I'm concerned about that, is I know it matters. And also when I'm going deep with people, sometimes the conversations can go on for 2 and 3 hours if we're doing deep work. And I don't want to assume that. There's so much good stuff in what she's teaching and the guidance that she gives. I'm just fascinated by it because it fits for me. And I was also listening to an example recording that she likes to share at the ICF things of this one dude who's a coach who's about 30 years old. Have you heard this thing? With this guy who was just turning 30. And if you'd heard it, you'd remember. Anyway, I can find it and play it, but it's like 10 minutes long, so I won't burn that much time. My point is and I'm really curious about this, and this kind of helps me describe what it is that I'm trying to accomplish and help people with. In that conversation, she asked him a question that his response had to do with being a young kid, like in first grade or some first grade teacher or something like that. And then in the debrief afterward, when she's talking to the attendees, it's all ICF people. She said, how I managed to not go into therapy, because she's very deliberate about that, is I may take somebody back to a point. I may ask a question that takes them back to a point, but no sooner do I do that than I bring them right back to the present. I don't go there. I don't stay there. I bring them right back to the present. And she's really adamant about that. Understandably, because I know that's That's really important in ICF, and it's really important in making a distinction between coaching and what most people think of as therapy. That's why I'll never be an ICF coach, because I really like solution brief coaching and I really like laser focused coaching. They're very similar in many ways. And that works for me. And when I'm with somebody and they go back into an early part of their life, if I have the appropriate relationship with somebody and the appropriate, I'll ask, would you like to do some work on that? You want to go deeper on that? That's where I switch into IFS, turn my hat around and switch into IFS mode. And I'll take basically the people I end up connecting with. Take yourself as a just a perfect example. There's plenty of stuff that you have in your history that you could work on with me if you wanted to, and I'd be perfectly happy to do that with you. It'd be great. Your childhood was, as you told me last week, was very challenging. You obviously survived. You developed your own coping skills. Yay. Good on you, Charlene. And those things are still in your system, and they do still have an effect on you.
Yes, they influence my decisions.
Exactly. And that's where what I do incorporates coaching and takes it beyond coaching, but not into therapy. So people ask me, well, where does what I do end and therapy begins? IFS, there's a two-part answer to it. IFS started out as a therapy model, just like nonviolent communication started out as a therapy model, right? And several other things. Hakomi started out as a therapy model, just to name a few. But IFS is very clearly and definitively not a therapy model like CBT or DBT or ACT, acceptance and I can't remember what the C stands for, but anyway, acceptance and commitment therapy. If you're not familiar with what ACT is,
no, this is for ACT in terms of ICF route.
No, these are cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, and acceptance and commitment therapy. Right? Those are, in my way of thinking, those are classic therapeutic models. And part of the reason why they're classic therapeutic models is because they lean on the therapist to be the good parent, if you will. And IFS doesn't work that way. IFS recognizes, acknowledges, and at its core says that every one of us is born with a core wisdom and capacity in the context in which we're living because of our connection to the universe. To use, I'm not trying to be woo-woo, but just the energy that animates me came from the universe, right? And when I die, it'll go back to the universe. So the energy is energy, but I didn't create the energy. I'm an instance of an organization of the energy, just like you are. So IFS, through this idea, this concept of what we refer to as self with a capital S instead of little s, which is commonly associated with like ego and stuff like that. But in IFS, capital S, self, is this core wisdom that we are imbued with at our conception, and which most of us think of as being in our heart. And that exists in every one of us. And in IFS, that is the entity that is the wise parent that we're working to have heal the parts that are wounded or distressed or traumatized or whatever, and bring them back into harmony with the system, because that core self is the leader of the system. So the difference is that I don't need to be the super well-grounded therapist in order to make it safe for transference to happen between the client and me as the reliable source. The whole idea of transference is a non-issue in IFS because the intention is to connect with self, from self outward into the system and outward into the world.
Connect with self, from self, and be outward, interact outwardly.
Yeah, with our own system and then outwardly into the world from self. That is the ideal dimension of IFS, and that is the ideal of IFS as in an indirect way, in a meditation. It's not designed as a meditation, but it ends up being a way of life, like a meditation.
Yeah, it's like a state of being, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A state of being. You're the conductor of these inner, this is what I see. You're the conductor of your inner symphony.
Yep.
They have different tools that they use, different
instruments.
That's what I meant to say. You can tell, like, when one doesn't play on key, it just like hurts to the ear more so, right?
Right.
So we have those little pains of experiences that some of us, I guess, I don't know, I'm kind of like exploring that metaphor where when that music is just like not in key and you obsessed, right? And you kind of mute the rest of the group, and that's all you focus on. And then here you are, there's like different instruments, different parts of yourself, as you said earlier in our previous conversation. Right.
And the one thing that's off key is totally standing out like a sore thumb. You use the ideal analogy that we use in IFS, which is an orchestra and a conductor. You totally nailed it, Charlene. We can go to a great symphony concert with 50 musicians and one person who's got kind of a key role at a particular moment, like a trumpet or a clarinet or a pianist or whatever. They'll hit one wrong key, or they're not right on, and that's all we notice. It's like everything else, all the perfection of everything else just kind of disappears.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because as human beings, because we are prey animals, but we are also preyed upon in our biological history, right? Because it's our intellect, our brains that have helped us survive for 1 million years. It's not our sheer brawn, right? We clearly don't have the strength of a bear or the size of a moose or a buffalo. So it's because our brains developed that we could outthink our foes, that we were able to become the apex predator. Because there were plenty of times in our history when we were tree-dwelling primates that we had to watch out for predators like snakes, right? Like tree dwelling snakes that evolved to attack human beings. This is, humans, I should say, or our ancestors millions of years ago. So that's where I differ from other people with respect to therapy, because I'm using IFS and not using these other models like CBT, DBT, ACT, which I also know a little bit about. I certainly haven't studied them in depth. I've put years of study into IFS. In the IFS world, there is an intentional way to use IFS in coaching. The guidance that's usually provided people who want to use IFS as coaches is to go to a certain stage in the cycle or in the journey and leave it there, which is a good place. It's getting to know I don't know if I've explained enough about IFS. It's getting to know the protector parts, but without going deep into the parts that actually are carrying the wounds or the burdens, as we call them. And because I've got the training, I can go that extra distance. Or a different coach who doesn't have that additional training would stop at that first logical place and say, you know what, that's an accomplishment right there. Just getting to know more of the outwardly presenting parts of us that kind of drive our behavior. And then, when we find somebody, either a therapist or a skilled, skilled and qualified coach like I am, who knows how to do the rest of the steps to go the remaining distance and actually work directly, help the client work directly with those wounded parts and heal them and bring them back to the analogy with the system and the whole symphony, so that it doesn't stand out like a sour note. That's the work that I get to do with people, and I do that from the perspective of coaching. Okay, so where do I draw the line between what I do and therapy? The simplest way for me to describe it is, first of all, I talk to people, right? I get a sense for them. And like you, for example, and anybody else who would work with me, who's coming to me as somebody who's already well grounded and well balanced in their life like you are, maybe not as optimally as you want to be yet, but your life works. You're not the problems that you're having are not inhibiting your activities of daily living. That's where I draw the line. So if people come to me who have severe depression, for example, do I know generally what to do? Yeah, I generally know what to do. But those are the people I would refer to a person who, preferably an IFS person, who's got lots of practice and experience working with people who are dealing with severe depression or psychosis or problems that are interfering with their ability to carry on a normal life. Addiction, for example.
Yeah, sort of diagnostic kind of situation, right?
Yeah, something that qualifies as a diagnosable kind of problem.
Right.
And so that's, that's borrowing the 80-20 rule. That's like 20% of the population, right? Something like that, whatever. And the other 80% of us, you and I included, we're still walking around in some level of damage, but not so severe as to impair our life or really mess things up. But these things are also inhibitory to our development and growth and progress. And those are the people I want to help. And that's a friggin' enormous pool of people.
Very true. Yes. Like that fully realized, fully potential, access to being your best self, right?
Right.
Because we all want to improve, right? We all want to be at that point where, okay, I got this.
And really feel it, not just intellectualize it, but really feel it.
And sometimes they can be so far apart. Our intellectual understanding of things, our emotional maturity and understanding of things, like we understand intellectually, but the maturity and the acceptance and the somatic experiences could be so far apart.
Yep. And that's what I help people with.
Yeah. I love it. Actually, I love it. And so I like this recording because it really allows us this part of the recording allows us to clarify what you offer. If you could summarize what you explain, what a listener would want to take away, simplify, summarize in one sentence so that they remember you or that they remember IFS.
We all have within us everything that we need to heal, HEAL, heal our inner system and bring our mind and body into harmony. It exists already within us, even if we don't know how to connect with it and manifest it. The work that I get to do with people who have an otherwise pretty normal life, but have this sense that there's something missing in spite of all their successes, their outward successes, is the work that I get to do with people that I delight in. And by using IFS, by using internal family systems, I help people find that strength and that life force within them and bring that forth as the leader of their system.
Yeah, so makes me think tapping into the ground floor, right? There's a underneath the pretty house on top. We all, strive to be clean. Sometimes it gets messy, but then you, Richard, have the ability to go downstairs.
Exactly.
Beyond what's, that foundation underneath.
And I think you're reading my mind, because that's actually something I say to people is we're building an edifice in our lives. We're building an edifice on a foundation. And if that foundation, okay, I'm not even going to talk about shifting sands, but let's say the foundation is built on big rocks. And if the rocks shift, the edifice shifts. So the work I get to do with people helps them really be confident that their foundation is not only built on large rocks, but that the rocks are really held in place. Solid, yes. And then they can build that edifice on top of it and rely on the foundation to support the edifice as it continues to grow.
Yeah, earth changes, earth moves, right? And so the foundation has to be strong enough to adapt onto the earth movement, the change.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
without crumbling and taking the house with it, or whatever the edifice is.
Yeah.
Could be a business, right? Doesn't have to be a house. Doesn't have to be the place I live. It could be my business too.
Yeah. Professional aspects of our lives.
Yep.
Could be that. Yeah. Business.
And ultimately, really, Charlene, it comes, in my opinion, it comes back to the thing that I have as a mission statement for Rocky Mountain Calm, which is that we assist people to reconnect with their natural birthright of being and belonging.
Being and belonging.
Being and reconnect with your natural birthright of being and belonging.
That's beautiful. There's some sense of calmness and integrity and human, I guess, connection with that, right?
Yeah.
Being and belonging. We desperately so want to belong. And I always say, we're not human doing.
We are human beings.
We're human beings.
Yep.
So what is that part? Yeah. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing to be recording this onto the podcast. And I think it's so rich. I hope the listeners get a lot out of this. And I'm going to say, dare to be calm through Richard, because it's a powerful thing to be calm, right? Collected and show up as you want.
And if people want to reach me, they can easily found on LinkedIn. Just look up my name, Richard Tashma, or Rocky Mountain Calm, CALM, RockyMountainCalm.org. I tried to cover the bases.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So yeah, thank you again for this rich conversation. Thank you again for all the lessons. It's very insightful. And I can't wait to actually re-listen to both recording and put them together and share them with everybody else.
And I appreciate you, Charlene, and thank you very much for engaging me in this conversation. And
thank you. I want to thank you.
You're welcome. It's just a joy. I thoroughly delight in these conversations, and you're a great partner with whom to have a conversation like this. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Bye.